Sharks are one of nature's most misunderstood creatures. Due to Hollywood and movies, sharks have often caught a bad reputation, but they play a major part of our underwater ecosystem. Welcome to the Phoenix Zone and all things Cayman. I'm Phoenix Singh, and on our YouTube channel, we showcase different businesses, different organizations, and our natural environment, and all the things that make Cayman so awesome. On today's episode of All Things Cayman, we will be talking with the Department of Environment about one of our coolest animals of the ocean, sharks. I'm very pleased to have on the Phoenix Zone today Dr. Joanna Kohler from the Department of Environment. On today's episode of All Things Cayman, I am very eager to explore our Cayman marine life. Before we get into our topic about sharks, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your role at the Department of Environment?
Yes, so thank you for having me, first of all. I am the Shark Project Officer at the Department of Environment, and as such, I'm conducting shark research, the monitoring of our population, but I'm also coordinating our outreach and the conservation work on island. So first of all, we are conducting field research, so we are studying our sharks with various methods. Okay. So we get the information that we understand the population a little bit better, and the knowledge, so we get the results, we do the analysis, and then from the results we have to share with we want to share it with the public to let the public and the children know. So I'm doing a lot of like school talks, public talks, talking to you right now, and you share it on your channel with the Cayman communities. I'm also having a close relationship with the diving centers on island and fishermen. There's an open communication, so when they see sharks, we have a citizen science project where all the diving centers are helping us monitor the shark population. And then the conservation work would be talking to stakeholders and the public, really, to help conserve and protect our sharks a little bit better, because obviously we have the understanding how they behave and the numbers, and then also we need to work with the public because everyone has to be on the same page so we can conserve them in the end for future generations.
So you're the one that researches and then puts or lets everybody know what's happening with the sharks?
Exactly.
Okay. So what type of sharks live in Cayman?
What types? So we have recorded over 10 years of research, as our surveys have recorded 17 shark species. I know, quite a number.
That's a lot.
Quite a number. But not all of them are like on top of the coastal shelf, so you will not see them all of them, because some of them live very deep or further offshore.
Yeah.
So we have about 7 that come closer to shore, and the most abundant would be the Caribbean reef and the nurse shark and hammerhead species, and then from then on they are quite like fewer numbers, like tiger shark. We have silky sharks that are actually offshore but come close to shore, oceanic white tips, lemon sharks, some black tip sharks, and we also then have now and then maybe 2 per year whale sharks come through. They're quite rare. And then when we go deeper than 200 meters, we get the deep sea species, such as the Cuban dogfish, the blurred lantern shark, which is just a new discovery. Like we've recorded it first time in September last year, because we're doing now a new study that goes deep. We also have dusky smoothhound, the boa cat shark, and sharp-nosed 7-gill and broad-nosed 6-gill shark. So, but those ones are like below 400 meters up to 2,000 meters, though, so 6,000 feet, right? Really, really deep into the trench.
So that's a lot of sharks.
That is a lot of sharks, but even though we have a lot of species, the population sizes themselves are not that big. So Caribbean reef, for example, we have just about 200, actually 180 Caribbean reef. And nurse sharks, we have about double of that, like 350 to 880. But like those are the most abundant. The other ones, we don't even have population sizes of those because the sightings are so few and rare that we can't model them yet. We can't estimate the size yet. So it's a lot of like species, but they are not that abundant.
So what animals do sharks or the sharks in Cayman hunt?
Well, sharks have quite a range of prey items. All of them are carnivores, first of all. So sharks are carnivores. They feed on fish, but then it depends on the species, what kind of dietary preferences they have or feeding strategies. So some of them are predators, such as a tiger shark, Caribbean reef shark. They all have teeth. They prey on an item. They hunt them. Then, for example, nurse sharks, they have more smaller teeth, more like sandpaper. They are more specialized for suction feeding. So they crack the conch. They have a really strong bite, like the jaw, and then they suck out the flesh. Or with lobsters, for example, nurse sharks eat also lobsters. And then we have a few filter feeding sharks. Well, the whale sharks come to Cayman, yes, but they are not really in Cayman, like the megamouth shark and the basking shark. They filter the feeding.
Yeah, they just come.
Yeah, but then another interesting point is that, for example, when the sharks grow, so when they're small, they have different food. They feed on different animals than when they grow up. So, for example, the small Caribbean reef sharks eat like crustacean, mollusks, like little worms and stuff. And then when they grow, they change over to bigger food like groupers, snappers, barracudas, jacks, that kind of stuff.
Good. What should people know if they catch a shark?
When they catch a shark?
Yeah, like fishermen.
Yeah, most likely. So sharks are a protected species in Cayman. So by law, you were not allowed to kill them, harass them, take them in any form or shape. So we recommend that you remove the hook to release the shark, or cut the line as close to the hook as possible to reduce the damages. We have a whole list of best practices on our DOE website. So if you want to go there and download the fact sheet, you can do, and then you have it like on the boat with you in case you catch one. We also recommend not using non-stainless steels for the fishermen, because when you do not remove the hook and it stays in, then it will rust out relatively quickly. If you use stainless steel hooks, then it will take much longer and it affects the shark much longer. We also ask that you are mindful of any additional injuries or the handling time to keep it quite short, because if an animal is stressed out, it can then affect the survival chances later on, even if you release it. But if you stress it out, it could still die after, right? So, and the other thing is that we are always asking people to just be mindful. And for example, in the shallow areas, like mangroves and stuff, just be mindful fishing there. And if you see like little baby sharks, for example, just remove the rod or the hook for that time being while the shark is like moving around. And then once it's gone, you can continue fishing.
What if like a shark dies, just like after you catch it and the shark dies, but you didn't mean to kill it? What would you do then?
Call us. So we have had those incidences before when fishermen unintentionally catch a shark, and especially, I mean, those ones that do and see it fairly fast and they can remove it and let it go, perfect. A healthy release is always the preferred outcome. But for example, the deep sea sharks, when they catch them fairly deep, they think they might be a grouper, right? So when they bring it up, they don't survive the pressure change, the fast pressure change. So when they come to the surface, they're sometimes dead. And then they call us, and I'll take it from the fishermen and then make a post-mortality exam. So I can actually get a lot of information out of it. For example, there's gut content, what the shark has been eating, whether was there any injuries, was it pregnant, was it a female, a male, how big was it, what species is it. All these biological information is quite important for our shark research. So if you have a dead shark, obviously we don't want that, but let us know, and then we can at least get a little bit more information out of it before we have to discard of it.
Okay. I wanted to get a fisherman's perspective on sharks, and met with Captain Jason from Cayman Snorkel Co. We are very pleased to have on the Phoenix Zone today Captain Jason from Cayman Snorkel Co. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Cayman Snorkel Co?
Well, we started Cayman Snorkel Co. 2015. We just do private charters, custom itineraries. We like to take people snorkeling, see the stingrays, fishing, anything you can do on the North Sound, basically.
So, Captain Jason, how long have you been fishing for?
Well, I mean, growing up, my dad always had a boat. He would take me out. He would take me fishing because I wanted to fish, especially growing up here in the early 90s. That was our main activity of choice. We just fish off the iron shore or stuff like that. You know what I mean? So just my whole life here in Cayman. You know, we like to see sharks. I've seen a tiger shark one time. That was very cool. A tiger shark in 8 to 9 feet of water.
So, how big was that shark?
He was a smaller one. He was probably 6.5 feet. It's just the location where we saw him in the North Sound my whole life I'd heard stories about tiger sharks potentially going into the North Sound to maybe give birth or something like that, and I'd always dismissed it as a fisherman's tale.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you now it's true.
So, what type of shark did you catch that day?
We don't fish for sharks. You know, it's illegal. When I say we saw the tiger shark, we were just snorkeling with it. You know, we've accidentally caught shark at 60 Mile Bank or the Fad, and we always try to give a safe, clean release.
Mm-hmm.
But we've caught over at the banks and stuff. We've caught black tips and silkies, stuff like that.
So, what would people do if they see a shark, like just randomly in the water or scuba diving?
I would get excited, honestly. It's a special event if you see a shark in Cayman, and it's a sign of a healthy and thriving marine coral reef environment. So I'd say be happy, but also stay calm and enjoy the encounter. If you are not comfortable staying in the water, just get out, enjoy it from the beach and enjoy it from the boat. Actually, you see it sometimes even better from the boat or from a higher up surface, because then you can see it move about. Obviously, don't harass it, don't feed it, it's illegal. I also don't recommend approaching the sharks. Most of the time, if you do approach a shark, it goes away anyway, like it's scared of you. Then you miss out the opportunity of actually seeing it. But also, it is a wild animal, so they deserve our respect, right? Don't be afraid of it, but respect the shark. So it's their environment. Don't harass it, just enjoy it. And we are not on the sharks menu, so there is no need to be afraid of them, right? But if you are uncomfortable, just get out of the water and enjoy it. So and let us know, really, because we do keep I do keep a shark sighting database from like beachgoers or tourists or whoever sees a shark, and that data still helps us. So you can always email it to us at sharks@gov.ky.
What if you're like trying to feed, like a grouper or something in the deep water, and a shark came up to you and tried to eat the bait? What would you do?
Yeah, well, that happens. That's exactly what happens to fishermen. Because first of all, we shouldn't feed any wildlife, right? It is not allowed in Cayman to feed any wildlife, so we shouldn't feed a grouper even in the wild water. But what fishermen do is literally like they put a bait onto a hook and put it down. And no fishing gear is selective, so you cannot say, "Oh, today I'm gonna catch a grouper so and so big." It's just not gonna happen, right? So there's always a chance, and especially with predators such as sharks, to go after the bait, and especially if there's a struggling fish already on a line. So the bait is for the grouper, let's say. The grouper goes on it. Obviously, it wants to get off it again once it's hooked. So it's like struggling, and the fisherman reels it in. So there's a fight, and the predator, like a shark, can pick that up. All these like little minute, or not minute, pressure waves from the fish, the shark can pick it up. They have a lateral line alongside their body, which is a sensor for pressure changes in the water, and that's how they detect their prey. Because they do go after struggling fish, injured fish, sick fish. And so a grouper on the line is a sign for a shark. This guy is not okay. It needs to be taken out, right? So the shark goes after the grouper and it either takes half of it and the rest comes up, or it
It
goes
gets
and
hooked,
it gets hooked itself. Exactly, and that's what happens to fishermen. That's usually how the unintentional catch happens. And what you've got to do is bring the shark in and remove the line if you can, like I said.
Harms the sharks. Like,
What harms the sharks?
yeah, the population.
Yeah, so since we are protecting them, all sharks within Cayman waters, coastal and offshore, we don't have that threat of like shark fisheries, right? Because there is no shark fishery here. But like I said, this incidental or unintentional catch is still a threat, because yes, we do get sometimes dead sharks with a hook inside, or some kind of injury detained from a catch. So that still poses some threat. We also have abandoned fishing gear that still continues fishing while it's just abandoned in the ocean. Like we had those ghost nets that you had maybe heard of come in, and those like just catch everything within their path. So not just sharks, but also fish, turtles, everything, right? So that is still posing some threat. And then we have also the habitat destruction and degradation. So for example, our vast majority is coastal development on the coast, right? So close to the shore, and lots of it requires, or some landowners decide to remove mangroves and stuff like that. So and pollute the ocean essentially. So all of that impacts it, because I said earlier, the mangroves are actually essential habitat for young fish, but also baby sharks. And baby sharks are not getting any parental care. So the mother, when she gives birth, does not look after their children. The babies are immediately on their own. Imagine you being born and you have to fight for yourself, like against predators, and you have to hide. Well, yeah, you need to hide.
I need to find food
And you need to find food at the same time. So the mangroves are the perfect habitat for that. They can hide in the mangroves, and then also there's all these little critters that the baby sharks eat. So that essential habitat, if you remove it, then obviously that impacts the population and the survival of the babies. And then we also have found out from our surveys that human in-water activity, like disturbances in the water, actually affects our sharks. They avoid these areas. So that's why it's so special to see a shark in Cayman, because they usually avoid all the busy areas where humans are. So for example, 7 Mile Beach, you hardly see a shark there. It will be very special if you see one, because all the people in the water swimming, the jet skis, the boats, the divers, the fishermen, the cruise ships, all of that noise, the sharks don't like that, right? They go either really, really deep, like off the drop-off, really, really deep, or they just displace, like they go further east, further south, where it's less busy.
Gotcha. So how does the DOE study sharks?
Yeah, so the shark research, organized shark research, has started in 2009. So before then, there was no systematic shark research on Ireland. And from then on, we have studied our population first on top of the coastal shelf, because it's easier to get to. Like you need special equipment to go deep. So we started up with the top of the coastal shelf. And we use like underwater cameras. They are baited. So we have a bait and a camera, and then the bait obviously attracts all the sharks. They're not being fed. They're contained in a bait bag, but they can smell it. So they usually look for the bait while we watch them, and then we record the sharks, and we can analyze the footage later on in our office. We also track them with acoustic transmitters, acoustic tags, and some of them we have satellite tags on. We also do photo identification. So we use like markings, like scars and stuff on a shark to identify individuals. And then we can put those into a model and how often we see them. And then we can estimate the population sizes, like I said earlier. And we also use the divers. So I mentioned earlier, we use the diving community to help us. So they submit all their sharks, all their dives, the ones with and without shark sightings. And that is important that we get both, because this way we know where they looked, and then we know, and this is how often they saw a shark where they have looked. So we use a range of methods. And then 2 years ago, we started going deep what I said earlier when we went down and I had a look at the deep sea sharks. And for that, we use special equipment that can withstand the immense pressure in the deep ocean. And we use similar equipment, again, camera, which is weighted, but it is a special housing that can go really deep. And then we use also eDNA, and that is a new method. It only developed like in 2017, and it's short for environmental DNA. Because everyone, we leave all the DNA in our environment, and so do fish. So we use collect a water sample, and then all the DNA, like scales, poop, all of that. If a species was within 2 weeks in that area, we can detect it in that water sample. So we take the water sample, we filter it, we ran the DNA through a lab, and then we can extract what kind of species were there. And together with then the footage, we can then get a good understanding of what species are down there.
Thank you so much for taking your time to do the interview.
Thank you for having me, Phoenix.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with both Dr. Joanna and Captain Jason about our Cayman sharks. I learned a lot about the types of sharks that we have, their habitat, and safety. Sharks are an important part of our Cayman marine ecosystem. To learn more about the sharks of the Cayman Islands, you can visit the Department of Environment at www.doe.ky. Thank you so much for joining the Phoenix Zone today. We hope you enjoyed our discussion with the Department of Environment about sharks. And don't forget to like and subscribe.